Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadi alladhina istafa ma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna sam'a wal basara wal fu'ada kullu ulaika kana anhu mas'ula. Jazakullahu al-azim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Inna sam'a wal basara wal fu'ada kullu ulaika kana anhu mas'ula. That on the day of judgment, Mufassirun have mentioned regarding about this ayah that every single limb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address every single limb, and that limb will respond in accordance to how the person's deeds were in the dunya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the hearing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, our ears, they will be questioned about what they heard in the dunya. The heart, what passed in the heart, what remained in the heart, what do we fill our hearts with? That will be questioned also by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the eyes, wal basar, that these will be questioned about what they used to see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He created insan and He took them out from أَخْرَجَكُمْ فِي بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ He created human beings, He removed you and He took you out from the wombs of your mothers, not having anything. And He gave you hearing, He gave you sight, He gave you your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted these as a what? As an amana. Everything that we have is an amana. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha. Every single thing, an amana, a trust, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon a human being, it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. If you give something to one of your companions and your friends, you expect them to look after that trust. You expect them to look after that amana which you had given them. All of our limbs, everything which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, this is an amana, this is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are given a car to drive that doesn't belong to you, generally you will drive it in a more safe manner because it doesn't belong to you. You don't want to get into a car accident. You're just not going to just floor the pedal and just drive and accelerate. You'll brake slowly. You'll speed up slowly also. When it's your own car, you can drive. People drive, they drive crazy here in North Avenue. They drive however they want to drive. But when you have your own car, you're more careful. When you have the cognizance and recognition that whatever we have, our limbs, they don't belong to us, then you'll use them in a careful manner. When a person understands that child doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they understand not to abuse the child. They understand not to always reprimand the child by yelling at the child and beating the child. That wife that you have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give you that wife, or the husband that a wife has, that you don't own them. That is a blessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take them away anytime He wants to. Similarly, the limbs that we have, and specifically the eyes which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us. These eyes are a means of recognizing the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In numerous places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, do you not see the mountains? Do you not look at the camels? Do you not see the trees? Do you not look at the heavens and the skies? What's the purpose of that? So when you see that, you reflect upon the Creator. Because في كل شيء آية تدل على أنه واحد. In every single thing is a sign that indicates to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The makhluq, Rabbul Alameen. Why is it Rabbul Alameen? The Alameen is all the different worlds, because the alam, it's a sign, it's a token, it's a symbol which indicates and points to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator. But the sins of the eyes have become so rampant and so common in this day and age. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the time, over 1400 years ago, when there wasn't the accessibility to sin was not easy. In that time, he mentioned numerous ahadith and gave strict warnings about the usage of the eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself mentioned in the Quran, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala links the eyes with the heart, with the chest, that He knows what the eyes, the deception of the eyes and what the hearts conceal. Is because the eye has a direct impact upon your heart. The eye has a direct impact upon your heart. That is why even ulama will mention when you're reciting Quran, it is better to recite whilst looking in the mushaf, because looking into the mushaf also is an ibadah also. It has an effect upon your heart. Looking at your parents with a smiling face, smiling at your parents, or having, looking at your children or your wife in a loving manner, there's reward for that, and that has an effect upon one's heart. Similarly, if a person on the opposite, vice versa, they will look at things which are impermissible to look, it has an effect upon the heart also. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, يَعْلِمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ, because the eye snatches glances where a person is not able to see. It's very quick to catch a quick glance at something inappropriate. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even knows that. And that's why even ulama would mention, if a person has difficulty controlling their glances and eyes, do muraqabah and contemplate over this ayah. The يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the deception of the eyes. No one will know what I'm doing at 12 a.m. at night. No one will see when I'm walking, when I'm driving. I look at that billboard, I look at on the sidewalk, the opposite gender. But know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing those quick glances which you are stealing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the correlation between the eyes and the heart itself. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned in a narration of Muslim, لا تتبع النظرة النظرة فإن لك الأولى وليست لك الآخرة. Don't follow up one glance with another. You have the first one, but you don't have the other. Some people may think they take this hadith in the wrong context. You don't have, if you know there's the opposite gender present there, you know that she is there or he is there, that doesn't mean you get to take a glance. This is talking about an accidental glance. You're walking, you didn't know there was a female, or for the opposite, you don't know there's a male, and you just happened to look there and you found out, oh, it was a female or it was a male. Then you're supposed to lower your gazes. Not that I already knew, so I get the first one, and then I'm supposed to lower my gaze after that. Nor does it indicate that your first glance is extended. Your first glance is not 1 minute. As soon as you figure out within a fraction of a second, you see her or you see him, you're supposed to lower your gazes. And you look in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has emphasized the ahkam of separation between men and women, and all the different precautions that have been taken, specifically in Surah Nur. In Surah Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the different sifat of those believers that will be entering into Jannah. Amongst those sifat, one of them is those that safeguard their private parts. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just mentioned the sifa, the quality. He didn't elaborate on the rulings regarding about it and how to do it. Then in the next surah, in Surah Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elaborates on all the different ahkam pertaining to this. The Surah Nur itself, it starts off with the rulings of if a person were to commit zina, if a person were to commit fornication, what is the ruling of that individual? What is the punishment that they will get? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions after that those ayat that, oh, you who believe, do not enter into someone else's house other than yours without seeking permission. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has mentioned in a hadith that جُعِلَ الْإِسْتِئْذَانُ لِأَجْلِ الْبَصْرِ أو كما قال عائشة والسلام, that seeking permission to enter into one's house, what is the purpose of that? Why is that necessary? لِأَجْلِ الْبَصْرِ, because of the eyes. If you just decide to walk into anyone else's house, you're going to see things that you're not supposed to see. Even, for example, in your own house, sometimes you're married, you have a sister-in-law that's coming to visit. Now, if you just decide to open the keys without knocking and informing, you might see them uncovered without wearing proper hijab. So that's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِسْتِئْذَانُ لِأَجْلِ الْبَصَرِ, that one of the adab of entering a house, even be it your own house, you seek permission before entering it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this ayah and the ahkam pertaining to that in Surah Nur. Then after, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about lowering the gazes for the believers, addressing the males and addressing the females. Even though majority of the Quran, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the believers, He addresses them totally as one whole. He doesn't separate the males and females. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قُلْ, oh Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tell them, And who قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Tell the believing men to lower their gazes. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ, that is more pure for them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of everything which they do. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the females. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. Tell the believing females to lower their gazes also from the opposite gender. And safeguard their private parts. Now, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention these two together? Is because your eyes are like a camera. As soon as you see something, you take a picture of it. That picture could cause different desires inside you. And that desire is what leads to a person committing fornication. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that you safeguard your glances, because that leads to a person committing zina. That leads to a person committing zina. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions ayat of Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. And that's one place in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this name of His nur. So the reason why ulama mention is that if a person, what's the correlation there, is if a person lowers their gazes, safeguards their eyes, then inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them the nur of iman inside their heart. You want the nur of iman, you want the taste of salah, you want the taste of fasting, and all of these different types of ibadat, learn to lower your gazes. And this is a sin not only our youth involved in, but the elderly, the adults, young children. Everyone is involved in the sin. That's why in surah, in two places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions tawbah in many places of the Quran. But when He says, Tubu ilallah jami'an ayyuhal mu'minun la'allakum tuflihun, that's in one place in the Quran, that's in Surah Nur, right after the ayat of lowering the gazes and how women should dress. That all of you believers do repent back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together, everyone. Why? Is because everyone is involved in this sin. This is such a sin that everyone is afflicted by this sin. And now in this day and age, with everything which we have on the computers and the phones, this has been multiplied, and the sin has just been multiplied for all the sins in our account as a result of this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he himself mentioned to the Sahaba that إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْجُلُوسَ فِي الطُّرُقَاتِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, that be careful in sitting in the streets. So the Sahaba said, Mawlana Buddha ya Rasulullah, we don't have no choice, we have to sit on the streets. We have majalis there. So he said, فَإِنْ أَبَيْتُمْ فَأَدُّوا حَقَّ الطَّرِيقِ. So if you have to sit in the streets, in the sidewalks, then fulfill the rights of the sidewalks. So the Sahaba asked Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are the rights of the sidewalks? What are the rights of the streets? So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned amongst one of them, غَضُّ الْبَصَرِ, lowering your gazes, safeguarding your eyes from impermissible things. In the time of the Sahaba, they didn't have the type of clothes that we had. And additionally, when the ayat of hijab and burqa and jilbab and all those ayat were revealed, they still lowered their gazes. In this day and age, we're living amongst people in a society where it's much more difficult to lower one's gazes because people are not dressed appropriately. There's so many rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given in order to protect both of the genders this way. That the dress code itself for men and women, the separation, and even on top of that, if you happen to have an interaction that is necessary with the opposite gender, then you lower your gazes. Why are these fights come about within families? Why is a man cheating on his wife or vice versa? A wife is cheating on her husband. Many times, they never safeguarded their glances in the first place. Because if you always safeguarded your glances, you never looked at something impermissible, automatically when you see your wife or the wife sees the husband, who are they considered to be the most beautiful? Their wife or husband. It's logical. If you're not glancing at other genders and things which are impermissible for you, when you get married, when you look at your wife, you're going to consider her to be the most beautiful. When the wife looks at the husband, is not looking at other males, then who will she consider to be the most beautiful? Her own husband. But now you get sick and tired of looking at them. Why? Is because your glances are going everywhere else. This is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned to lower your gazes. Then you'll see that the love will actually fruit and become beneficial between your husband and your wife, between the spouses. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a sin which has afflicted the entire society. There's different cures that ulama have mentioned for a person to safeguard their glances. There's different types of muraqabat of certain ayat, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. A person should do muraqabah of the ayah, thinking about every day, any time your eyes want to look at something else, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you right at that moment, and He can take your eyesight away if He wants. Because that's an amana, that's a blessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. If He wants, He can take that away from you. Thinking about the punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stored in Jahannam for a person that doesn't safeguard their glances. If you want to be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis in Jannah, how can you acquire that when you don't safeguard your glances? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the entire dunya, the creator of the entire universe. Everything which we may deem to be beautiful, He created that beauty. Now imagine how beautiful the creator is. Everyone likes to see beauty, right? You have those wallpapers on your computers, the scenic wallpapers, like the different mountains and different sceneries. Why? It looks appeasing to your eyes. So, like that, if you look and safeguard your glances, inshallah, that will be a means for a person to have the reward of being able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis in Jannah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability and tawfiq to safeguard our glances. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Inshallah, all the brothers are requested to stand up, move forward so there's space, and we can pray our sunnah, inshallah. Few announcements, inshallah. Please stand up and move forward. Do not leave gaps in between and make space for others. Please pass the donation boxes from left to right and donate generously. Sadaqah wards off calamities and draws the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned charity giving during the day of Jumu'ah is greater reward than any other day. Registration for the winter intensive is now open. Tickets are available at a reduced price for a limited time. Get you and your families registered now. You can go to masjidds.org/winter. We have a student Jor program today after Isha. Dinner will be served. Weekly programs, Saturdays Team Fajr will continue tomorrow. Fajr Iqam will be at 6 a.m. Bukhari Dars will be resumed from December 5th, inshallah. Tuesday's Tafsir program after Isha. This Tuesday we'll be continuing with Surah Anbiya. Be sure to join us with your friends and family. Weekly Salawat gatherings on Thursdays after Isha is continuing. Request for dua, Mufti Azam of Pakistan and the President of Jamia Darul Uloom Karachi, Mufti Rafi Uthmani, rahimullah, passed away this morning, the brother of Mufti Taqi Uthmani. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him and accept all the khidimat which he has done for the entire ummah. Darul Salam student Ibrahim Asif's grandfather, Sahib Zada Abdul Malik, passed away in Pakistan earlier this morning. Muharrima Masik and Fadil Masik both passed away. Daughter requesting for dua maghfirah for both of the parents. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all of the deceased and grant them a high status in Jannatul Firdaus, and may their children become the means of sadaqah jari for them continuously.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وخير الأمور عوازمها وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين. أما بعد، فيا معشر المسلمين، قال الله تعالى في الكتاب الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد بعدد من صلى وصام. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد بعدد من قعد وقام. اللهم صل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم أيد الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم، ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر، والله يعلم ما تصنعون. قيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا استقيموا. Straighten the rows, shoulder to shoulder. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله، إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.